Hey guys, what's up? It's Andy Brew here today with a video about the most recent tank changes that Blizzard have just announced. This video is going to cover all the different tanks and both my opinion on each tank and also the opinion of our top players as well. Hope you guys enjoy it. Okay, with the introduction of the Dragonflight's talent system and season over season changes, tanks in World of Warcraft have become extremely durable relative to non-tank characters. Okay, first off, I don't think this is true at all. I mean, tanks have been extremely durable relative to non-tank characters. I mean, I can see somewhat. This is like somewhat true. The tanks did get like stronger relative to Shadowlands because of the talent system, but not like. I mean, they also changed stuff to make tanks also take more damage as well in terms of like how the content scaled. But yeah, I don't know. I think this has been a thing that's been true for a long time though. Like me as a tank, I've stood in a bunch of things for many seasons that DPS can't stand in, you know, like tank privilege. That's been a thing for like forever. So I don't know. I don't think this statement is actually true. I think that's like false. If that's like the narrative that they're going with, then that's not true at all. But anyway, it's like a minor thing. The active defensives can mitigate a high percentage of incoming damage and they have strong self-healing. Well, that depends on the tank. Some tanks' self-healing is far stronger than others. Today in the hardest content in the game, many tanks can sustain themselves without much assistance from healers. Okay. Bro, who wrote this? I'm sorry, this is just not true. Many tanks can sustain themselves without much assistance from healers. Yeah, okay, like two. Like, what? What is that statement? Nah, dude, there's no fucking way. A lot of tanks have become more self-sufficient, that is true, but not every tank can like fully sustain themselves without assistance from healers. Okay, he says the hardest content in the game. So historically speaking, in Raid, they try not to make bosses too oppressively hard for a tank player, because if you trickle it down to like lower level guilds doing high mythic rating, you don't want to have like tons and tons of wipes just to the tanks kind of like dying like over and over again, right? By making something like very, very difficult. And what I mean by very difficult is to the point where you need a fight to have fully scripted external / defensives in order to actually survive or you die. The only time that they didn't do this was Sepulture with Rygalon and Jailer, where they actually made really hard tank hitting bosses. Like for like the World First progress, they were like really difficult to the point where I remember the Jailer straight up one-shot my Blood DK if I didn't have any like pre-defensive or like a huge blood shield. With every auto attack swing, he would straight up, boom, I was gone from the game. Yeah, but I think this statement is mostly talking about Mythic Plus, right? And he's saying many tanks. I mean, basically he's saying Vengeance Demon Hunter, right? Let's be honest, right? I don't know, this is like a really broad statement, but it's not quite true. I mean, in my opinion, tanks being strong or being self-sufficient is more fun than tanks not being self-sufficient, right? Like, don't you guys agree? As a lot of you guys are tank players or people that have played tank, isn't tanking just infinitely more enjoyable when you are more self-sufficient and you don't have to rely on as many other things and you have more autonomy? Isn't that like when tanking is at its best? The issue where like there's things that do damage that are like designed to kill DPS players and healers, and then they don't kill the tank. I feel like there are maybe other ways that they could go about like making that still do damage to the tank, or making, you know, tanks have to play around that better. Like they could probably do something where if you're in tank specialization, it does like a percentage extra of your health if you took like some sort of, you know, failable damage. You know, there's like alternatives to like prevent that kind of feeling of, oh, tank privilege, you can just like, you know, sit in all the shit while DPSs and healers have to play mechanics type of thing. There's definitely like other ways around that for sure. But yeah, I don't know. Like in some cases, we've seen it optimal to do group content without a healer at all. Yeah, so I mean, he's just talking about high keys. I mean, there's been like lower keys as well. Like he's obviously talking about like MDI, where people have played, you know, no healer keys. But this is mostly a problem of how Vengeance Demon Hunter is, or well, how the big self-healing tanks in and of themselves, you know, end up being. World of Warcraft is an MMO, and its multiplayer aspects are a major strength. Group content is extremely rewarding when players performing different roles come together to overcome a challenge. Yeah, that's true. We want to reinforce the importance of the healer role and work towards gameplay where tanks and healers collaborate to reduce damage the tank is taking and restore the tank's lost health. Okay, I mean, what, that doesn't happen? I mean, I guess that happens less than it used to, kinda, but still, this is like a Vengeance TH issue again. Tank durability can cause some other problems as well, especially in challenging endgame contents that we want to work toward improving. Enemy damage has increased to challenge tanks. Yes, that is true. But if it is increased too much, it gets spiky and puts tanks in significant danger if their defensives ever drop. This can lead to tanks getting killed rapidly, seeming out of nowhere. But it's not nowhere. Bro, has this guy ever played a tank? What? We feel this is unsatisfying. What? And to generally be evenly distributed. I mean, this is the whole thing about tanks and cooldown mapping and having a cooldown rotation. Nah, dude, they don't play the game. They don't play the game. But still threatening over time. Okay, so what? They just want it to be a throughput thing. But then when they said later on, healer gameplay should not be dominated by tank healing, how is that not true when they want to lower tank self-healing and they want to make tank damage more evenly distributed? Then it is just literally going to be a throughput thing. Right, that they're contradicting themselves so much. If tanks are not threatened enough, then the most challenging part of endgame content can become keeping DPS and healers alive. Yes, that's true. Often against high burst damage. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, a lot of keys are about healers DPS getting one-shot by stuff. Making tank survival a more involving element of group gameplay could give us some freedom to ease up on the threat to other group members. Wait, that makes no sense. If the reason why you're wiping a key is because the last boss of a dungeon does some sort of mechanic where everyone needs to have some sort of pre-defensive or they get one-shots, how is like changing how tank survival going to change that? That's still going to be the same for the DPS and healers. To address the above, we're making reductions to tank durability and self-healing. This will allow us to smooth out the damage tanks and parties take while retaining the challenge of keeping them alive over time. We'll take those changes into account in encounter tuning as well. Okay, so you're telling me all of the tuning that has just happened, or sorry, all of the bosses that I've just tested for Race Toward First, all of that testing, at least as a tank player, is like partly wasted. Okay, so far, whoever wrote this, I mean, I don't want to be that like streamer that just says negative stuff, but okay, they very clearly haven't played tank in any high level content. They have these kind of like really broad generalized statements, and they've contradicted themselves massively. Like they obviously want tanks to be some sort of throughput, but also part of the fun thing about tanking for me, when something is really difficult and I have to properly plan my defensives out, or I have to try and figure out what I can do to either make a damage rotation smoother, like damage taken rotation, or, you know, what I could do to fit in that gap, how I could improve it with my own gameplay. And that is only possible because of how different spike damage kind of like works. That is like the fun thing about tanking when something is really difficult, you know. You die, whatever, you look at your VODs, or you look at logs and you're like, oh, okay, I could do this. Or maybe if I move this to, you know, this point of this fight, or to this part of this pool in Mythic Plus, or maybe if I kite here, I have my defensive for the next pool, which is like the really hard pool, yada, 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 right? And then when you make those changes and you succeed, then you get like instant dopamine. Your brain just goes like, blue, blue. And you're like, I don't know, you're just like, holy fuck, let's fucking go, you know? That's like the fun thing about tanking. I don't know. Okay, tanks will take more damage overall, but shouldn't die significantly more often. So yeah, they're making it like a throughput thing. Increase the overall damage tanks take and the reliance on healers. We're primarily increasing the percentage of damage they take after mitigation from steady damage sources like physical attacks. We're making fewer reductions to each class's defensives against burst damage or other threats that are currently most likely to be lethal to them. Encounters will be tuned with this in mind, so the character of tank damage changes, the lethality of it doesn't significantly increase. So just more like raw damage basically. So, i.e., it's a throughput thing, right? Healer will have to heal you more. Tank damage intake should be steady and not too fast. One of our goals for these changes is to smooth out the rate tanks take damage to reduce surprise, spiky deaths. Healers should have time to respond to tank health, and tanks should have time to use self-heals like Word of Glory or Celestial Brew. For some classes, we're increasing their passive defensives to compensate for decreases to more active or reactive defensive mechanics. Tank busters will still create challenging moments that reward tanks for planning and smart use of cooldowns. Oh my god. Okay, we're gonna get into later, I guess, what the actual specifics they did. I don't know, this is so weird, dude. To smooth out rate the tanks take damage to reduce surprise spiky deaths. I mean, you don't really have surprise spiky deaths ever, though. Did paladins get destroyed? I didn't actually look at the paladin part yet. Yeah, I mean, I can already tell you, like, if this is like the theme, then yeah, paladins will probably not do well. Tanks will still have strong answers to threats or periods of damage, but less sustained self-healing. Tanks should have autonomy over their own survival and will still have cooldowns or emergency self-heals, like renewal or impending victory. But the healing of continuous effects like Elun's Favored or Indomitable are reduced, so tanks must have more of a partnership with healers to restore their missing health once it's lost. But it's not just about restoring your HP though. It's about pre-mitigating something that you take less damage, so you don't have to, whatever. It's fine. Healer gameplay should not be dominated by tank healing. Healers play a critical role, and keeping their tanks alive is part of what they bring to the table. However, healers contribute to the success of group in many ways, especially in dungeons. They sustain the group, dispel harmful effects, and respond to burst damage, all while doing mechanics. Tank healing should not demand so much that it interferes with their other roles. It may take some iteration to get the balance right on this, where healers feel essential to tank survival, but with their attention not overly demanded by it. Oh my god. Bro, did they just like want classic WoW or something? Okay, I mean, let's see. I mean, this is their ideology, right? They just wanna, their ideology is that they want this to happen while also not having this happen. I don't know. We'll see if they're able to achieve both their aims. Tank gameplay should not significantly change. What? Or require actions like kiting to survive. Bro, this is so contradictory. We're happy that more players are enjoying playing tanks with their friends and in pickup groups. Yeah, that's gonna happen. There are a lot of demands on tanks, such as learning Mythic Plus routes, leading groups, and knowing what trash abilities. I mean, the leading groups part is mostly because, you know, the tank does the pulling. The tank is the one that needs to know the route the most out of anyone in the group. The leading group part as well is also like a community perception because of that. But I think various streamers and what have you have done a good job of showing, you know, DPS or healers can, you know, help the tank more by leading the group. You know, particularly someone like Gingy, I would say. And knowing what trash abilities are particularly dangerous. Yeah, that is true. The gameplay of standing toe-to-toe with groups of enemies and the tactics you've learned to survive should continue to be effective. Yeah, we're gonna go through it now. All character stamina has been increased by 60% as part of an overall adjustment to the pace of healing gameplay. This increases the relative value of abilities that heal a percentage of a character's maximum health. Many of these ability changes are to counteract that relative change. For instance, the percentage health that Frenzied Regen restores has been reduced to about a third by the amount of health it restores. The amount of health it restores has remained the same. I mean, part of the biggest issue is that you have a lot of tanks. I mean, Blood Decay is like first and foremost, right? Blood Decay is a tank that is designed with the idea of taking a lot of damage and then being able to heal it up. Now, Blood Decay has been like a problem tank for a long time. Because of the way that Blood Decay works, it gets to this point where it just gets flat out one-shots. It's very hard to play in like high keys, high level content, right? And the only times it's ever been really good in Mythic Plus is when it's just overtuned as fuck. Like, for example, like in Season 3, Season 4 Shadowlands, and in like in Legion, when it was just ridiculously overtuned. Those are the only times this tank has ever been really playable in Mythic Plus and in high-end Plus, right? But in raiding, because of the nature of raiding and how you have like, you know, taunt swap fights, you're not necessarily tanking all the time. Usually raiding is like just one big boss that's like smacking you, and the damage is not like too extreme. Like it doesn't, you know, scale to obscene levels. Blood Decay has, for a really long time, it's been a really OP tank, I would say, for raiding. But I mean, throughout this entire expansion, I would say that Blood Decay was probably the best raid tank out of the whole expansion. Even in Season 1, when people played, what was it, Prots Warrior for the Race War first, Blood Decay was still just obscene. We actually played a Blood Decay method, actually. And I guess now played Blood Decay for Echo last 2 bosses, right? Yeah, like this tank has been kind of like a problem where it's just so OP in raiding because it's just unkillable, even on like really hard progress kind of level for other tanks. It's just been able to be completely self-sufficient, which is like kind of like left this like issue of like what do you do with it, because they're never going to be really good in M+ unless you overtune them, and then they're just OP in raid. So it's like, do we just leave it, you know? I don't know. I mean, obviously these changes that I'm about to read are going to upset the balance, so yeah, we'll see it. So Blood Decay. Death Strike is a powerful ability that allows Blood Death Knights to mitigate a percentage of any form of damage taken in the last 5 seconds. In a way, Death Strike works like a retroactive shield block. Yeah, that's a weird example. Instead of reducing damage up front, it mitigates the damage you took from a hit by healing you. If used in succession, Death Strike can affect a single hit multiple times, which would be comparable to blocking a hit, then going back in time and blocking it again, which would be comparable to then going back in time and blocking again. In some cases, restoring yourself to higher health than where you started. In the War Within, we're changing Death Strike to not only heal the Death Knight for a percentage of damage taken from a given damage event once, to make it scale more like other tank damage mechanics. Well, I would say, I guess one of the issues Death Strike is just how strong Blood Shield is, especially in raiding. Like, I think Blood Shield is absurdly strong in terms of how high a cap you can have of Blood Shield, and the way it works in terms of how big a Blood Shield you get from the damage that you take. Like, that's more of the issue with Death Strike, is that, especially in raid, like you can be tanking a boss, you can be like not the main tank for a second, you know, you can store up a really high Blood Shield, or yeah, I don't know, like the general mechanics of Blood Shield in general are like very oppressive for raiding, in terms of just overall damage reduction, right? So I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, Death Strike is like a issue in a way because it is like a reactive form of gameplay, but it's more like Death Strike coupled with Blood Shield. The biggest issue, I guess. I wonder if they talk about Blood Shield. We're also reducing runic power generation. But wait, hang on a second. So in the War Room, we're changing Death Strike to only heal the Death Knight for a percentage of damage taken from a given damage event once. I wonder how that will actually work in practice. It seems like it could be really awful. We're also reducing runic power generation somewhat, and reducing some of the mitigation Death Knights get from higher uptime cooldowns like Enfeeble and Dancing Room Weapon, but increasing armor from Bone Shields. Overall, Death Knights should take damage more smoothly, and they remain one of the strongest tanks for encounters with high magic or periodic damage. Well, runic power generation has actually definitely been a problem, I would say, as Blood Decay for this expansion. Because if you go back to previous expansions, like pre-Dancing Rune Weapon tier sets from Shadowlands, like let's say you go back to Season 2 Shadowlands, right? Blood Decay was far more of a, you know, pooling runic power and being quite patient with your Death Strikes often. Like this expansion especially, runic power generation has gone through the roof with things like, what is it, Runic Attenuation is the talent, and like a few other things that they've done. They've basically like made Blood Decay runic power generation absolutely through the roof compared to like before, and then they've added talents that promote you to kind of like spam Death Strike, like Coagular Therapy, Icy Talons, which all feed into, oh well, Icy Talons feeds into Runic Attenuation, giving you even more runic power. It's not surprising, you know, you have like this kind of like spammy Death Strike gameplay when it didn't used to be like that. Blood Decay hasn't always been like that. Almost like, I don't know, did they not play that long ago, I guess? I don't know, these designers. I guess maybe the Blood Decay designers changed a lot since then, I don't know. But I mean, I think reducing runic power generation, get Blood Decay back to kind of like how it used to play would be better in terms of like being, you know, a tank that kind of like has to pull and think about your Death Strikes like better in high level content than what it does right now, where you just like and like almost spam it. But yeah, we'll have to see, I guess. Death Strike can only heal the Death Knight for a percentage of damage taken from a given damage event once. A new aura, Coagulating Blood, shows the amount of recently taken damage that will be used to calculate value of your next Death Strike. The aura description lists the value as a flat amount, and the number of stacks shows it as a percentage of your current health. Blood Shield's cap is now 50% of the Death Knight's maximum health. Oh no. And the caps no. Oh no. That's an actual huge change. That's a really big one. That's like fucking massive. Oh no, dude. That's a huge change. That's a monumental nerf, bro. That has to be one of the biggest nerfs I've ever seen in my entire WoW gaming career. Although, yeah, we did get increased stamina, I guess, but I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming, you know, all damage is gonna be relative, right? Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't like it though. Rune of the Fallen Crusade now heals for 4% of your max health for 6%. Runic Attenuation now generates 3 runic power, was 5. So I think that is a step in the right direction. But I don't know. I mean, you would have to change a lot of the other talents, I think. Enfeeble reduces damage dealt to you by 12%, was 15%. Null Magic reduces magic damage taken by 8%, was 10%. Bone Shield increases armor by 100% of strength, was 80%. Bro, what? Are you telling me that is the caveat? We're reducing some of the mitigation Death Knights get from higher uptime cooldowns like Enfeeble and Dancing Room, but we're increasing armor from Bone Shield. Oh yeah, guys, don't worry. We're... Oh my god. Okay, you guys don't realize this is a really low amount of extra physical damage reduction from increased armor. Off the top of my head, what is this? This is like, what, 5% DR or something? I don't think it's even that. It's like 3% DR or something, guys. Maybe 4%. Great. Leeching Strike now heals for 0.2% maximum health. Okay. Dancing Weapon increases parry chance by 35%. Was 40%. Oh shit. Each active Dancing Room weapon generates 3 runic power from when mirroring Heartstrike, was 5. Okay. Everlasting Bond increases Dancing Room weapon's duration by 6 seconds. Was 8 seconds. Oh, that's kind of shit. Blood Drinker reduces the damage the enemy deals to you by 15%, was 20%. Bone Storm heals you for 2% of your max health, up to 10%. Bone Storm damage is increased by 20%. Okay. Is that it? I thought there would be like more. I mean, the big change is like this. This is like the massive change. And then this, I mean, we'll have to see how this kind of like works in practice. I mean, it's definitely pretty bad, I would say. They touched like the runic power a little bit. So you won't be able to Death Strike as often. But I don't know. I don't think they really did too much damage to that department, I would say. I mean, okay, we'll have to see how damage works relative to your HP as a tank. Since they did say they want to make tanking way smoother, right? Like, they said at the top here, yeah, tank damage intake should be steady. Like, this is one of Blizzard's aims, right? So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to let's see how it works in practice. Hello?
Hello.
What is your view on these changes, sir? To Blood Decay specifically.
I mean, I was about to just type to you. Like, I like the direction that they're going in. I'm not sure if it's correct, but I personally like it.
You like the reducing tank durability and self-healing?
Okay. It's a bit hard to say because a lot of people have a lot of different issues.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the biggest issues in pug keys, especially, not really necessarily applying to me, is that, oh, my tank just fell over, oh, my tank's dead. They don't know what they did wrong. And finding out what you did wrong is really difficult. And I think this is a step in the direction of helping that. It's really hard for you to find out what you're doing wrong without directly looking at logs, and a lot of people just don't look at logs.
No, I agree. Unless you like record your gameplay or you're logging, it is more difficult.
Gameplay or log, those are the two things that you should absolutely do, and a lot of people just don't.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like the number one thing I always tell people whenever I coach someone is like, you want to get better at the game, you need to like record your gameplay in some way, like or use logs, or you know, or both, right? That's like the best way to improve the game.
And I think this is something that's trying to make it a lot easier for people. They're trying to even out the damage over a longer period of time, but they're trying to also keep defensives useful.
Streamline it, basically, right?
Yeah, basically make it easier to go into. And I think a lot of the changes that I am seeing, I haven't really looked at the other classes except Blood Decay.
I'm gonna look at them soon. Exactly. I've heard some really bad things about Prop Paladin. Like a bunch of people told me, "Oh my god, Andy, Prop Paladin's dead," or they really wanna want my opinion on that.
I've heard some super bad things about Guardian Druid as well, but I'm not entirely sure.
Oh really? Okay.
But these changes, such as like the Blood Shield one changing, I think this one isn't as bad as it looks because everybody is getting 60% stamina going into the patch.
Don't you think, though, because of how damage will be increased relative to everyone's health pool in general?
But I think that's something we have to kind of hold back on, because this is the first iteration, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we are missing the most of right now is actual encounter changes. Because if they're making all of these changes tuning-wise...
what are they going to do? They just finished testing. They finished all the mythic testing.
Yeah, I don't know. That's
it's
what I'm
over.
thinking as
It's
well.
done.
But there has to be something, right?
What is going on, dude? There's no way. Like, it's gonna be a weird race toward first, right?
Well, one of the changes here that intrigues me the most actually is the Bone Storm one, because they increased the damage a lot.
Yeah, I didn't understand
They lowered the healing. Lowering the healing is probably because of the stamina buff that we're gonna get. But Bone Storm was kind of lacking in the damage department, to the point where you're probably not gonna take it in a lot of situations.
Yeah,
so
you almost never
took
took it.
Play it some more. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that I was gonna say, or the things I've been typing so far, is a lot of what you've already said. So I'm not exactly sure how much value I'm gonna give here.
No, that's all good.
I do kind of like the idea of Deathstrike only being able to heal you for the damage event one time. So instead of it being all damage taken in the last 5 seconds, it's going to be damage taken in the last 5 seconds, but only one instance of it.
Thank you, Rahuli. I appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, no worries, man. Yeah, you should get some other people on if you know people that talk about the other classes as well.
Yeah. I was gonna ask Mayra.
Yeah, I'm gonna bounce out though.
Yeah, sure.
Reading all the changes, and I'll speak to you again soon, I guess.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. Oh wait, Mayra, you're here. Yo, Mayra, I'm gonna read through the Vengeance TH changes. Do you wanna like hop on Discord after I've like read through it and see if there's like anything else that like I didn't like say or that you disagree with or anything to like add? Did you mind doing that? Are you free? Sure thing. Okay, that's cool. That's sick. If you guys don't know, Mayra is like one of the top Vengeance TH theory crafters. He does a lot of work for Vengeance TH in general, for the community, and for high level players as well. It's much smaller than the Death Knight ones. Like Deathstrike for Death Knights, Soul Fragments give Demon Hunters strong recovery against any type of damage, as well as strong self-healing. Because Demon Hunters consume Soul Fragments steadily, we're not changing the rules for how often they can affect a damage event. We're increasing Vengeance TH overall damage taken by weakening the damage reduction of talents like Void Reaver and Illuminated Sigils, while keeping the power of core abilities like Soul Fragments and Demon Spikes. They will continue to be one of the stronger tank classes at self-healing and surviving magic damage. Okay, Live by the Glaive now restores 2% of max health. Thick Skin increases stamina by 60%. Demonic Rods reduces physical and magic damage taken by 8%. Soul Cleave Healing reduced by 20%. Frailty heals for 8% of damage done, down from 10%. Way to reduce damage you take from targets affected by Frailty by 3%. I mean, Illuminated Sigils, by the way, I've actually played Vengeance TH quite a bit. I think in M+, you'd still obviously want to use this, but I think having double Fiery Brand is also just immensely strong, especially in raiding. Oh wait, hang on. Down in Flames reduces Fiery Brand cooldown by 12 seconds, down from 15 seconds. Metamorphosis increases maximum health by 40%, plus 50%. Dark Glare Boon now refreshes 50 to 13% of Oldev's cooldown, runs 15 to 30 Fury. Okay. Dude, am I the only one in thinking that this is like, kind of like fuck all? Like this doesn't do anything, no? Like compared to the DK ones, this doesn't do shit. Or am I completely cooked? Like this doesn't do anything. Like they haven't changed how Soul Fragments, in terms of like how they heal you as Vengeance TH. They haven't nerfed Soul Fragment generation, which is a really big thing. I mean, wow, they nerfed Soul Cleave healing, woo, which is like absolutely fuck all like of your healing in high level content. So who the fuck cares? I mean, for raiding, like you probably won't even use Illuminated Sigils on most fights. So if you're Vengeance TH raider, you don't give a fuck about this change. It's whatever. I mean, the frailty thing is like it's only 1% per stack, which, you know, with Soul Crush on a raid boss is like kind of like it's not much you're really losing out on. I feel like it's definitely something, but it's not like the end of the world. But like, okay, if we go back to Blizzard's core idea, they want to reduce tank durability and self-healing. Have they done that here? Have they achieved their aims? Absolutely fucking not. Like, I'm sorry, but no, there is no way they have not achieved that with these changes. Obviously, I haven't played Vengeance TH post these changes, but there's no fucking way, dude. Like, this is so monumentally low of a nerf to these things. Also, okay, I have played Fell-Scarred Vengeance TH a lot recently, and they're fucking OP, bro, on beta right now. They're like OP. They're so fucking tanky. Like, okay, you compare this to what they just did to Blood Decay? Like, this is like two different developers almost. This is like really weird, I think.
Yo,
So, okay, am I wrong? Or does this this literally changes nothing?
no, this is like fuck all.
Yeah. Like, what is this, dude?
My post in Fellhammer was TLDR. If they made these changes and didn't tell you about them, I'm not sure you would even notice.
Yeah. Like, what?
It just misses the mark completely.
Completely,
like,
right? Their ideology is just...
Yeah, like your cooldowns have like 3 second longer cooldown or something, and you take like 2% more damage. I mean, they nerfed Frailty Healing and Void Reaver, which will lead to... I mean, you'll take a bit more damage from bosses.
Yeah, you'll take a bit more from bosses, yeah.
And technically, you'll heal less from Frailty, but I mean, overall, you already overheal quite a lot. Most of that reduction is just going to go from the overheal, right? Overall, I'm not sure this changes anything whatsoever. And I don't know. I mean, a lot of people are dooming VDH because of the double sigil nerfs.
Yeah, but they're so clueless, man. I saw so many people put like Vengeance TH in like F tier and all shit, and I'm just like, I'm just sitting there like, bro, you're so clueless. Play it for 5 minutes on beta, and you'll realize how fucking wrong you are. Like, I don't know.
You're not even like, the main thing I think people miss out on is you're still generating exactly the same amount of sigils as before. You only the only thing is you can't bank 2 charges of each sigil after bosses.
Yeah.
But like overall, you're not gonna lose half of your sigils. You're gonna lose like 20-30% or something at most, maybe less. So I don't know. That change doesn't do too much. Fellscard is like current Vengeance baseline, but better.
Yes.
Eldraki, I think people are sleeping quite a lot on Eldraki because like they've done some stealth changes back like baseline, so it generates a shit ton of souls. Like Wounded Quarry is like 15-20 souls per minute or something, regardless of the target amount. Like the capstone 20% healing, it doesn't even work on beta. So like all testing people have done with that, just like there's a 20% heal with like 60% uptime missing.
Oh, what? Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah, it's like
that's kind of funny.
Vengeance is, I don't know. I think it's not going to be as OP as before, but it's. I think
it's in a really good spot.
I think people dooming VDH are.
Yeah, I think people overdoom Vengeance CH for sure. I think it's like really, really good.
No, I'm really happy with where VDH is at this moment.
I don't think Blood DKs are too happy right now. Apparently, prop pellers are very unhappy, so we'll get on to that.
I don't know. It feels like all of the changes they mentioned were like, oh, these are the complaints people have about VDH, so let's just not touch VDH.
Yeah.
Completely missed the mark on that point, but I don't know. I'm not one to complain, I guess.
I mean, okay, you read through this yourself. I feel like Blizzard really contradicted themselves hard in terms of the statements they were making in this post. And then their like initial aim is just like not even happening though with Vengeance TH.
I mean, I think Vengeance and some of the other tanks, like this will only be affected if they actually look at encounter design as well. Because like you just reduce the damage reduction of all tanks in some capacity, right?
Right.
But if you want to still have like this somewhat smooth experience, you're also gonna have to reduce the damage intake. Otherwise, it's just going to be healers funneling all of their healing into tanks.
Yeah, which is what they said they didn't want in this post. Healing gameplay should not be dominated by tank healing. And they said it may take some iteration to get the balance right on this.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna need.
It's a long-term goal.
You can't expect to make a sweeping change like this and be right on the first try either, I guess.
But it's just Vengeance TH, like, I mean, nothing is gonna change though. So like comparatively, like if every other tank gets nerfed like Blood Decay, then something like Vengeance CH, which is a tank that has very high self-healing, it's just gonna feel like infinitely better to play and require way less external healing required per second.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just happy we didn't get the Shadowlands soul fragment nerf that we got last time.
I am surprised they didn't they nerfed Death Strike, but they didn't nerf Soul Fragments.
Yeah. And I
It's
don't
like-
think there's been any data mine on Soul Fragments either that I've seen, so...
That's like that's so weird. Yeah. I mean, it's
But
like
yeah, yeah, that's my take on Vengeance at least, so I don't
Okay.
think it'll be
Well, thank you.
massively different.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, thank you,
Yeah.
I guess. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Sure
thank you.
thing. See you around.
Yeah, see you around, mate. Yeah, that was the top Vengeance TH guys. He gave us his like opinions. So TLDR guys, Vengeance is gonna like feel slightly tiny bit worse. The point where you don't even recognize it. Okay. So with high armor and Iron Foot uptime, Druid should be one of the best tanks at surviving physical damage. We're slightly increasing the damage they take from all types of damage and balancing the power of their self-healing. We're also reducing the durations of some of their cooldowns to make their use more important. Frenzy Regen heals you for 20% of your max health, was 32%. Iron Fur increases armor by 112% of agility, was 120%. Renewal heals you for 20% of your max health, was 30%. Reinvigoration increases Frenzy Regen's cooldown by 10 to 20%, was 20 to 40%. Earth Warden reduces damage taken by 25%. So the Fittest reduces cooldowns by 12 to 24. Tooth and Claw reduces damage taken by 12. After Wi-Fi triggers after spending 300 rage. Ursul's Fury grants a shield equal to 25% of Thresh and more damage. Moon's Favored heals you for 25% of arcane damage. Reduced to 8 seconds. Damage taken reduced to 20%. Rage the Sleeper's Leech decreases to 20%. Pulverize duration reduced to 8 seconds. Ursul's Guidance reduces the cooldown of Incarnation, Guardian of Ursa by 1 second for each 25 rage spent. Okay. I mean, this feels quite similar to like the Vengeance TH nerfs. It's definitely more of a nerf comparatively, but a lot of these talents you don't always play and they're like situational. So that's gonna be... I have to see how that will affect those builds, I would say. Like maybe there's a few things that you just won't talent into anymore. I mean, the Frenzy Regen nerf is obviously decent, but they said up above that like it will get evened out because of the fact that you do have just more max health. Like they're increasing everybody's max HP. The Iron Foe increases armor by 112% of agility. This is like a tiny nerf, I would say. I mean, the renewal healing a bit less is like obviously not great, but it's not like end of the world or anything. I don't know what to feel about this. I mean, I guess with their aim, like Blizzard's aim, reducing self-healing, reducing survivability, they have kind of done it here better, I would say. I wouldn't say this is anything too drastic. Nothing changes in terms of how you play Guardian Druid. You'll still play Guardian Druid the exact same way. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to feel about these changes. It's like a really weird one. Like Guardian Druid right now on beta was actually in a really strong spot already for especially high Mythic Plus. There was a lot of people playing a lot of Guardian Druid and doing like quite a few hierarchies. Like I heard that they were in like an actual solid spot. I would say it's probably the Ursul's Fury nerf. Has to be probably the biggest nerf, especially for like high keys. Yo, Ace and Squish, do you guys want to go on Discord? And you guys can tell me what you guys think about the Guardian Druid changes. And you guys can like explain to chat as well. Yo, what's up, Ace?
Hello?
Yo, what's up, mate?
Hi. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing good.
What do you think so far?
So, okay. I mean, my personal view as a tank player is I feel like tanks, especially in Mythic Plus, are only really, really fun when you have like high autonomy over your own survival.
Yeah.
I guess a little bit of like main character syndrome. That's like when tanking I feel like is really, really fun, you know, when you feel like you're kind of like taking over the world, I guess.
Yeah.
And obviously Blizzard doesn't want that. They want to tone that down massively and have your survivability massively, you know, influenced by the healer. I'm just majorly worried because reading this post, they've contradicted themselves many times. Their actual aims of tank durability and self-healing don't correlate so far with the actual changes. Especially when we had a look at some of them.
They've stated a lot of stuff that just doesn't make sense, but the only reason that like I can see these changes being somewhat like acceptable would be if they just nerf dungeon content by like, 50% or whatever. Like, they haven't announced any dungeon changes, but I would assume that mobs and dungeons won't hit as hard as they're hitting right now with these, because it just wouldn't make any sense, right?
Yeah, it would be like really, well, keys would be really hard with these kind of changes, right? You could have like a lot of tank this, a lot more than before, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's just why I have like Guardians so much right now in beta. It's because Incarn is still like really strong, and you can just not have to worry about dying to like melees or something. You can kind of just do the same thing you were doing when you were playing like Season 2 Guardian Druid, where you just unkillable in Incarn, like unlimited frenzy regen healing.
Okay.
But basically Moonbear is the favorite right now, I think.
Yeah, is that what you play as well, Squish?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Moonbear didn't get hit as hard by the nerfs. So,
yeah.
Ursox being nerfed as heavily as it isn't so big of a deal if Moonbear is the best.
Okay.
Because it's like convenient not to take Ursox if you can.
I see. So basically, this change kind of like does fuck all, since you don't play Ursox Fury anyway.
Yeah,
I think
because you have I think Elune's Favored was so broken. Like,
Elune's Favored obviously got nerfed to speak. So you're saying the Elune's Favored nerf has to be like the biggest nerf, you guys think, because of what you play right now in terms of talents? Okay.
It was doing as much as Frenzied Regen, like when I last checked.
Across a dungeon, yeah.
Breakdown. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think considering how much more lunar damage you do with your talents.
Yep.
It's like a welcome nerf that will still be pretty big value.
Right.
Compared to going down there sucks, right? Like fully.
Okay, that's interesting.
But yeah, like Tooth and Claw nerf doesn't matter because you don't play it. Like basically the Raze build you can't really play right now, in my opinion. If you're playing like the Moonfire stuff, right?
Because of how you have to commit to the Moonfire talents, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bear also has a talent called Lunar Beam, whereas like if you press Moonfire, you reduce the cooldown on Lunar Beam by like 3 seconds or something. So like part of the playstyle is to just reset the cooldown as much as possible on Lunar Beam. So like you just have Lunar Beam like 2 or 3 times in the pack. And Lunar Beam, by the way, gives you like 30% mastery for like 12 seconds. So you don't really need to like go into mastery at all as Guardian. You just have Lunar Beam giving you the mastery, and like Lunar Beam actually just feels so good as well.
Okay.
But also one of the other changes that they announced in the tier set was that Thrash is now affected by arcane damage. So I think like Thrash is gonna fucking smack. Like sorry, but yeah. So basically, in the Moonbear tree, you have a talent that makes it so your Thrash can deal 12% more damage, and now it gets affected by the arcane.
Yeah, I've seen that.
You basically just play instead of Rend and Tear, you just go for the other one. That gives you 25% more Thrash damage.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what you mean, yeah.
Your Thrash is probably gonna hit like so hard.
So you think you go that just for increased damage plus the healing from Elune's Favored?
Yeah, because before I was playing Rend and Tear, like just to have like some DR and obviously bust Moonfire damage, right?
Yeah.
So like I couldn't really test the other one on beta because it was just bugged for so long. But they literally just announced it now that it's changed, so it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
How much Bear is doing now, like with those changes, but
both of you guys have done like a lot of keys, right, on beta.
Yeah.
And so you guys before this think that Guardian Druid was like in a really solid spot, right?
So like Bear compared to the other tanks was, I mean, it's significantly better in my opinion than, for example, like Quad Warrior and Brewmaster. Sorry about the Brewmaster players, but I think the only thing that could compete with Bear was Blood Decay. And some people argued Blood Decay was better. But for me, Bear just felt like you could do infinitely bigger pulls and not have to worry about anything, because you still get the Incon reduction. You can still just, like in Necrotic Wake, for example, right? You can just you can do trash with boss if you wanted to, like, I don't know. Like, you're kind of just unkillable. And you have Moonfire giving you all this healing, you have all this armor.
And do you think the same, Squish?
Yeah, I think it was definitely in like a really strong place in beta, but this changes that, I'm sure, quite a bit.
Yeah.
Some pretty heavy hits in a lot of places, but I did want to add that I think Rend and Tear will still have a place, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, it's 6% DR. And that can be significant when, like, high keys where things are one-shotting you.
Yeah. No, that's true. Definitely. Oh, that's interesting though. So you guys basically think that these like nerfs don't really do too much to like Bear Druid's autonomy, really, because of the current builds that you play, right?
I would say that I think the Frenzy regen nerf is probably the biggest thing. They also nerfed its cooldown, I think, as well as the healing.
Well, they nerfed the reinvigoration talent.
Yeah, and they also nerfed its actual base amount. So
yeah,
we'll see how that feels but
well, you do have more max health than before.
That is true, yeah.
So I have to see how
it might be less reason to play Rage of the Sleeper now, because I think there's a lot of room for other talents, but there's kind of a lot of motivation to want to play Rage of the Sleeper, but now it's like, maybe I can pick something else, which probably a good thing.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see what like talents you go with Squish for Guardian, because I think there's actually quite a few builds floating around right now. Maybe there's another time for that, but
yeah, I can try to fix it up. Show you guys.
Because I think there are some people playing still like you can play non-incarn there and like go for like scintillating Moonlight, which gives you like 10% more DR. And some people like play with incarn, some people don't, and then like some people are still playing with Brace and Tooth and Claw, and like I actually am not sure what is really better. I guess it's kind of personal preference, but I think Survival of the Fittest wasn't needed, at least when I was playing, because I would just take 2 Survival Instinct charges. And Guardian on beta actually got a buff to Bastion and Survival Instincts, right? I think it's like 10% or something they added to both of them. So if you did go Survival of the Fittest, you would have a 40% DR at 32-second cooldown.
Yeah.
Which does just feel like super strong. I didn't feel like I needed those talents, and I don't think Gory Fur is like actually that good. So like you kind of just gain 3 talent points not going that way. But yeah, overall I think there is like, I think it took the least hit from all these changes.
Okay.
Just because there's so many talent options you can go. You can avoid the ones that like have taken the nerfs.
Yeah, I also think Vengeance DH basically got like 0 nerfs as well.
Yeah.
Didn't get touched, which is like so basically TLDR, you guys think that Guardian Druid is already really strong right now, and you think that Blizzard's kind of like theme of nerfing tank durability and self-healing, you guys don't think that really happens too much here, and in some cases it'll just make you favor other talents than before, basically.
Yeah. I think you could dodge, like, if you really wanted to, like, you could dodge all these nerfs pretty much and still play the game like pretty fine.
Basically the same.
I think a lot of the nerfs are not dodgeable, but you're gonna feel them. It's just
well,
it's they already had a ton of self-healing.
Yeah.
And they didn't hit the damage much.
But they also didn't really hit the self-healing too much, right? Like, I mean, obviously Loon's Favored was the biggest part of your healing, but you're already doing, unless they also nerf your damage as well, then you're still going to be very self-sufficient, right? As a Guardian Druid, which is kind of against what they want. So they haven't really hit the kind of spot, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, like, playing Season 4, like, top Bear, I think their healing was, like, absurd.
Yeah.
It pretty much never needed healing. Kind of similar to the Season 2 Bear. It just came back, but I was, like, the only one really playing it. So...
I mean, same in Season 3, no? You played, you did the world first 30 Chrono Tides, no?
I think it's 29, but
or was it 29? Oh, okay, yeah.
With the Rogue Warrior.
Yeah, the Rogue Warrior one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, we've been getting stuff done. I think, like, still tanky. It's just underappreciated because the DH meta came.
Yeah, true. Oh no, sorry. Oh yeah, I got the 30. Sorry. Yeah, my bad. I'm sorry, Vibes.
Good work.
Yeah.
Proud of you.
Yeah, it was you guys that got the 29, wasn't it? Yeah, I remember because I remember when you guys
codes with like the Transcendence monks. Right?
I remember when you guys got that, we were like Like I remember because I was playing with like Speed and Rago at the time, and they kept asking me like, "Is Guardian Druid like a missed thing, Andy? Like, what's going on here? Like, why are they playing Guardian Druid in this key? You know?" I don't know. It was actually kind of funny.
That was a moment. That was cool.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, thank you guys for giving me your thoughts. Actually. Oh yeah.
Going back to the frenzied regen like nerfs, do we actually know how much it was overhealing by? Because like I always ask myself this question of like, whenever something gets a healing nerf, because I don't know, like Vengeance DH on live right now, it has like a 60% overheal on Consume Soul. Like I don't know, like if these get impacted all that much sometimes. Obviously you feel it, I think, but like, you know, is it that detrimental to the spec that gets like a...
Yeah, I think it's a good point in Frenzy Regen. Like, most of the time you press it and you get like 2 ticks and you're full health, but it takes 4 times, so, you know, it'll be a more gradual way of getting tapped now, but you'll still get tapped.
Okay. I probably need to write down like a TLDR. I mean, TLDR is... Blood Decay, it's GG, I think.
Yeah.
Actually, no, Raholi said that he didn't think it was like the end of the world. But I don't know, it does look bad though. And then Vengeance DH is like...
I mean, they would have to tune the dungeons like a lot.
And Guardian Druid, you think is like... You think this is mostly a minor nerf, I guess, right?
I don't think you'll feel it as much as the other nerfs, personally, but you're still gonna feel it regardless, right? But after the wildfire, for example, like I wasn't really playing, regardless, because I wasn't going that route, but it was still a broken talent regardless. That healing on that was a bit interesting.
I gotta say that I think it's hilarious they nerfed Pulverize duration, because like who the hell's gonna play Pulverize? Yeah, you still won't play Pulverize, guys, don't worry.
It'll be interesting to see Guardian. I think it's still gonna be really, really strong.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much.
I gotta go find some a Brewmaster to talk about the Brewmaster changes, I guess. But yeah, thank you guys so much for
yeah, thank you so much, Andy.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Take care. Good
Yeah,
day.
take care, guys. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Look at Brewmaster myself and give my like general thoughts, and then we'll find some people to talk about Brewmaster with. Healers have more time to heal monks than other tanks because stagger spreads out the damage they take over time. Our goal is for monks to take a little more damage overall than other tanks to offset this effect. However, we feel that overall magic damage mitigation is a little low compared to other tanks, and are improving it somewhat by buffing stagger and its value against magic. To increase their physical damage taken overall, we're primarily reducing the dodge granted by a Elusive Brawler and some of their other talents. Brewmaster's balance increases Monk's armor by 50%. Elusive Brawler chance to dodge reduced by 12%. Okay. So every Elusive Brawler stack is 12% less effective? How does that actually work? I have to see how that works in practice. Celestial Fortune heals you for 70% of the amount healed, was 80%. Amount of damage staggered increased by 8%. Percentage of magic damage staggered increased to 58%, was 45%. Okay, that's actually a really big buff for the fuck. Dance the Wind chance to dodge reduced to 5%, was 10% for Brewmaster only. Yulon's Grace granted Absorb Shield equal to 1% of your max health, was 2% every 3 seconds. Healing Winds restores 10% of max health. Staggering Strikes healing reduced by 28%. Spirit of the Ox chance to summon a healing sphere reduced by 40%. I don't understand that actually. When it says Spirit of the Ox, do they mean Gift of the Ox, right? Because Spirit of the Ox is the... Oh no, Spirit of the Ox is the ones based off Blackout Strike and Rising Sunkick, right? It's the talent. I mean, that's like whatever then. Just the way the Gift of the Ox works, I believe, is every time you take your maximum HP pool in pre-mitigated damage, you generate 1 orb. That's the way like it used to work. I'm pretty sure it still works the same as when I played Monk a lot. So yeah, I mean that's like the most amount of orbs that you get, right? It's just from tanking, taking damage, forehead, you know. Okay, that's like whatever then. Elixir of Determination healing reduced to 30% of recently purified damage. Okay, that was 50%. Celestial Brew healing reduced by 10%. Pretense of Instability grants 10% dodge, was 15%. What the fuck? Wait, am I the only one who thinks that this might actually not even be a nerf, kinda? The amount that you're able to heal is obviously going to be slightly less. And obviously, the elusive brawler chance to dodge is like a really complicated nerf, because this can do like nothing, but it could also be big in like some situations in terms of like the overall damage that you take. Like, it's a really hard one to grasp. Like, this is either like decently big or it's nothing, you know. So Monk's armor is increased by 50% instead of 25%. So Monk has the lowest armor in the game out of any tank, and armor has like diminishing returns. So any increase you can get at a lower level is going to give you more physical damage reduction than, let's say, if a paladin or, you know, any plate tank got an increase to their armor. So this type of increase, obviously it's a percentage increase, but it's still going to give you quite a substantial amount of physical damage reduction as a brewmaster. So I don't know, that's kind of, I'd say it's actually decently big buff, not gonna lie. Like, anything that buffs armor for brewmaster is almost always kind of like big, just because of the nature of, you know, I mean, it was part of the reason why you always ran like Darkmoon Deck Immortality in Legion, the whole expansion, the whole way through. I mean, you ran it on other tanks, but it was especially potent on Brewmaster, because you have such low armor that increasing your armor by any amount, it just gives you humongous amounts of damage reduction. The amount of damage staggered increased by 8% is kind of crazy, I'm not gonna lie. Like, a flat 8%. I mean, this just makes, like, if their goal, like Blizzard's goal, is to spread out damage, right? Damage team take should be steady and not too fast. So they want to spread out damage, but if there's anything, that is any form of burst damage, which is something that Brewmaster Monk's speciality already, I don't know, they've just increased their potency against that by quite a substantial amount. Also, only increases, you know, the value of a lot of your talents that clear, stagger damage, or just your purifies in general, right? And then, yeah, the fact that they buffed your magic damage staggered is kind of incredible. I mean, Monk is kind of weak to magic damage outside of cooldowns, outside of Celestial Brew or like a big defensive, you know, like Dampen Harm, Diffuse, 4 Broom, Zen Med, External, yada yada yada. But this is a really big buff, I think. I don't know, like, is this even a nerf, bro? Yeah, but I don't think this will necessarily mean that you have to heal a Brewmaster a lot more. They didn't really touch healing orbs at all. They only touched the ones that you get from Spear of the Ox. They didn't touch Gift of the Ox at all. Obviously, Gift of the Ox works in terms of you have to take your health pool and pre-mitigated damage, which might be harder if the damage is smoother. But still, like, I don't know. This is like really weird, I feel like. But if we think about this as like purely a raid tank, right? Let's take away Brewmaster. Let's take away Mythic Plus completely, right? Look at these changes with the view of purely raiding. Then, I mean, these changes aren't even a nerf, I feel like. It's a buff, if anything. Like, this just made them even more potent in raiding. What is going on at this gaming company, bro? I mean, okay, so yeah, TLDR, my thoughts about this. I personally don't think this is even a nerf. That's my initial view. Obviously, I'd have to do some actual playtesting this change and some more empirical type of like evidence, right, with these changes to really get like a gauge. Like, I would have to do a lot of log reviewing / I mean, same with all of these changes, to be honest with you. But with Brewmaster specifically, because of the nature of Stagger, it can be kind of like a complicated tank to figure out in terms of, I mean, it also depends on the type of damage that you take in terms of like how bursty it is. It depends what Blizzard does to the actual damage that we're going to take in Mythic Plus and raiding. Like, if that's going to change a lot, which I assume it must be, right, with all these changes. But I don't know, dude. This looks to me like not even a nerf, really. Like, it's a nerf in some areas, but in areas that I don't think matter too much. I mean, Elixir of Termination healing reduced to 30% is definitely like decent nerf, I would say. But I still feel like they're going to be really strong. They're going to be even stronger at the biggest strength, which is just being a tank that can take lots of damage over a period of time, very good against burst damage. Obviously, they said that they want to reduce the amount of burst damage, but let's say you're doing something very difficult, like extremely high keys, or you're doing Race to World first progress with like limited gear, there is gonna be like burst damage to take, right? I don't think they're kind of like their goal is really gonna correlate with how the content will be and how the content will scale. It's very strange. I mean, Brewmaster for a long time, since BFA, it's kind of class identity, in my opinion. At least how it used to feel. It's been like much weaker in terms of how strong it was as a kind of like a, well, mostly as a raid tank, I would say. Just in, you know, the concept of stagger, being able to take like ridiculously high amounts of damage and kind of like shrugging it off and not appear to have taken that much damage. They have like been a lot more kind of almost like a pseudo blood decay in a way for a long time, I think, Brewmaster, in terms of like how they play. Like they definitely don't have that kind of like BFA Brewmaster feeling. It's been like that for a long time. Like Shadowlands was like the real kind of like shift, and then it shifted even more in Dragonflight. And they've gone away from this like kind of like immovable objects. Still requires like more healing than other tanks, but then is still just the absolute monster when it comes to, you know, anything dangerous or any form of damage. They're able to deal with it really well, just because their stagger value was so high in BFA with Ironskin Brew. But I don't know, like this is definitely a step in the direction of that kind of like previous iteration in some ways, while still having all of the kind of positives that they have like gained along the way. Oh, also chat, I have just learnt, apparently, according to Kate, who's like one of the big theory crafters for Brewmaster, does a lot of the number crunching, that the stagger changes in the blue posts well exceed the actual blue post, apparently, by like a hilarious amount. Okay, yeah, Equinox is coming, guys, so we'll get Equinox's opinion, which is cool. Let me drag you. Yo, what's up, dudes?
Yo.
Yo, how you doing, man?
Doing great. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Wait, hang on. Is this Equinox? John? Yeah, that's him, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, let me check him. Yo, what's up, mates?
Yo, what up?
Yo, how you doing, man? Hang on, let me turn both of you up in Discord, actually. Okay, yeah, we're good. Okay, yeah, so I've just looked at the Brewmaster changes now. I'm like slowly, basically, I've been going through every single tank change. I've been talking to like various people who play a lot of each tank. And so that's why I asked you guys to join the call, because I went on to Brewmaster. So yeah, TLDR, so far, I think Blizzard's goals don't align with a lot of the changes that they've actually done, like the specific changes. Like we were talking how Vengeance TH basically didn't get changed at all. Blood Decay did receive like a very, very large nerf, which will probably make it a lot harder and probably a lot more unfun to play than these other tanks. Guardian Druid apparently barely got changed as well because of certain talents that you don't even play that got nerfed, and it will just fish you into playing different talents. And I have just like started looking at Brewmaster. Am I crazy, or is this like almost a pseudo buff in some ways, especially for raiding?
I think it is overall a buff. Like a few of those, most of the challenge changes, like you don't really run in raid or M+ right now, so it doesn't seem like really a nerf. It seems more like a overall buff.
It does, right? Yeah, I mean, it seems kind of. I mean, do you guys think Blizzard hit the mark where they're going with these changes? Because for Brewmaster specifically, because I really don't think so. I don't know. Like it seems.
No, I think they just made them tankier.
Considering the other tanks, I feel like this was not fair. Like that, they definitely missed a mark for that. I think in general, Brewmaster, its design is probably really good right now. And I think other tanks should be going in more into the direction of where Brewmaster is. I think that would make more sense as like, hey, you play Brewmaster, you are going to be a bit more tankier. You'll probably still rely a tiny bit on your healer on packs where there's like a lot of magic damage still happening. For example, there's like these new mobs and mists that do like a magic slash, a magic tank hit, and there you will be needing a little bit of help. But other than that, you're generally pretty fine, and most of the passive healing from a healer is enough to keep you, you know, like healed up because of your crit, because of the Celestial Fortune as well. But yeah, I think some changes, like the ones that I mentioned there, Dance of the Wind and Yulin's Grace, are just talents you don't play anyways, simply because you're forced to play Diffuse Magic and Dampen Harm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, you have to play those due to the big tank hits. But other than that, the passive survivability, like the stagger buffs, are just insane. Like, yes, okay, Elusive Brawler got nerfed just to have the numbers ready. If you just play with the baseline mastery as you have, instead of 8% dodge chance per blackout kick, you would have 7% dodge chance per blackout kick. That would be the numbers.
Yeah,
so
I haven't been
that's
running
not really
too
big.
much mastery. It hasn't like felt like very impactful. It's kind of opposite of live. Like live, you kind of play a decent amount. I guess because you have a lot of secondaries, but yeah, it doesn't feel like those are very impactful. The Celestial Brew nerf I think will be a bit impactful, but I don't think it's like super important. It's only 10%, and it wasn't doing like it's not like on live where you have like big Celestial Brews. It's pretty weak, so I don't think it'll make like a big difference, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. I think looking at these changes, the biggest, let's say, nerf to Brewmaster is actually the change to the Euro talents, which is the aspect of Harmony, which got a little bit of a hit, but that's mostly just the damage that's taking it, not really healing. I will consider that actually to be the biggest nerf, if any.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it kind of just makes you lean more towards Shadow Pan, and you'll have a perma 10% DR. So if you have that on top of like the stagger changes, I think you end up just being a lot tankier than you were last week.
So you think mostly that like Blizzard is like really missing the mark, you guys think, here in terms of what they want overall goal for tanks?
I think so, because they seem to like want like they just have them to have less agency, like a little bit less agency, less potency, and they kind of just gave Brew more potency. They didn't nerf our self healing pretty much at all, except a little bit on Celestial Brew. So yeah, I think they hard missed.
For Brewmaster in specific, like compared to other tanks, definitely. Yeah, they definitely missed that. I'm not gonna complain though, because honestly, I hope Brewmaster is looking a little bit better because they kind of need the love. But I would say for rating specific, I feel like Brewmaster is gonna replace the Blood Decay in terms of the meat shield as the main tank in a raid, especially with the magic stagger buff as well. It's looking very solid in that regard, but we'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, my just like initial thoughts is just I thought this seems like a buff in terms of like how you actually play Brewmaster. Like this seems just like a buff, which is like very strange because their goal is to nerf tanks. They think tanks are too strong. So yeah, kind of interesting that they like really missed the mark hard with this one.
Yeah, I'm also just very curious about like what are they trying to plan with saying, hey, you want damage smoother and nerf like healing and DR from other tanks all across the board. Like, is there a plan to nerf damage from mobs and bosses by a certain %? Or what exactly is going to be their plan? Because let's say, even if there are no changes to mobs whatsoever, I think Brewmaster is going to be fine the way, like, after the changes, whereas other tanks are going to be struggling. Well, maybe Guardian is still going to be fine, but other tanks, I think, are going to be struggling very hard. So I reckon to smooth damage out, they will just nerf the damage from the mobs and bosses. But we'll have to see how that's going to go. You did a bunch of raid testing. Like, how do tanks feel in raid? Like, do you feel like they are okay, or do you feel like they are actually struggling as well? Because I didn't do raid testing.
I mean, I can't really leak too much.
I mean, it's just about, like, you don't have to say any specific tank. Just say,
depends
are they
on the
feeling
tank
good or
you
not?
play. It really depends on the tank that you play. I think
Okay.
I think overall the tank damage from the raid bosses doesn't seem too high. This tier definitely seems on the lower end, I would say, compared to some tiers that I've tanked. But yeah, now that these changes have happened, and then they said that they're also going to change encounters as well. I don't know, bro. Like, basically, like all of the testing I've kind of done, there's only like a few fights with like heavy burst damage. Most of the fights have like kind of like spread out over time damage or kind of like over a few seconds. I don't know. In terms of tank damage, I think this would have been like a easier tier. Well, that was my initial kind of like feeling. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know now, obviously. I could be wrong though. Maybe it's gonna be a hard tier to tank. I'll have to see what these changes end up meaning. At least for Race World first, like tank healing is like not really ever a thing, especially since we try and min-max fights to have as few healers as possible. So I'm really interested what their kind of goal with this was in terms of raiding, how it will kind of affect the race war first. So I don't know what they're gonna do. Like, are they gonna retest a bunch of bosses now? Like, I guess not. Like, I don't know. It's very strange. Maybe they'll retest like one or two bosses or something, just to gauge like how tanks take damage. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely really strange. I don't remember anything like this happening before, really.
I feel like they have to retest, right? Because like these are pretty drastic changes. Otherwise, it'd be kind of just blind guessing, pretty much.
I think so. Like, I think they at least have to test one or two bosses, then kind of like get some stats to kind of gauge an overall feeling that they then tune the other bosses based off. Obviously, yeah, for like maximum kind of have like really good decision making in terms of numbers, they would have to retest all the bosses. They're not going to do that, I don't think. I mean, maybe they will. We'll see. I don't know.
I mean, knowing Blizzard, they're probably just gonna slap Aura Nurse across the board.
Yeah, maybe. There is like a high potential for some of these changes to not really kind of scale well with some of the bosses, and those bosses might end up being very hard to tank. If like this is their general kind of like thought process, I would say.
I think the only thing I'm personally scared of is if they are actually not gonna change anything of the encounters and the mobs and dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
And they will have the pretense of saying, yeah, we buffed the armor of some specs here and there by a little percentage, and that's your DR.
Yeah.
I hope that's not gonna be the case, but knowing Blizzard, you never know.
Yeah, I'm a bit scared about that as well, actually, to be honest. But they don't really...
The more I think about it, the more likely it seems.
I'll be honest, I've been playing this game for a long time. I think these changes, this late, it's gonna be a shit show. I'm just gonna say it. I'll be honest. Like,
this should happen 4 months before launch.
Exactly.
Not 4 weeks.
This should have happened months ago, if it was ever gonna happen. But this happening this late, this is gonna be a shit show. Like, almost guaranteed. In some manner or form, to some degree, it will be an absolute shit show. But your guys' view of Brewmaster, as obviously you guys have played Brewmaster a lot on beta, is that obviously it's like very... I mean, I played Brewmaster myself in beta a bit as well. I feel like Brewmaster was in a very strong spot already, despite some people saying that wasn't too good. I don't know. I mean, I personally feel like Brewmaster was already very strong. How do you guys feel like previous state of Brewmaster, like right now, is?
I thought it was pretty good, considering we're testing at like 613, which is usually like our weak point, like low gear. It's usually like our weak point in the tier. We were doing already really good, so I feel like we're going to be even stronger at max. I feel like it's going to be kind of the same thing. We're just going to be super strong at max mythic gear, or like semi like low mythic gear.
Yeah, I also think Brew's just always been a spec that just scales very well. So as long as we're not doing horrendous right now, I think we're really fine. But yeah, I think there are some situations, like I said, for most cases, I think it was fine, but there were some situations where it felt a bit awkward. Sometimes became it because of picking up threat, or like I said, there were some magic abilities that were still hitting pretty hard, or some bosses that would just clap you, even though you have stagger and it felt like you didn't have it. But then it comes down to just getting used to it and then just making sure you're using the right abilities and the right defenses for it. Like, you had to focus up a bit more on how do you manage your cooldowns instead of like pre-heading.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it was fine. I would say it was still weaker than Blood Decay or Guardian Druid, but it was above average, I would say.
Yeah, I guess TLDR, if you're a Brewmaster player, you're probably pretty happy right now, I guess, comparatively to the other tanks. It does seem like you got pseudo buffed and maybe even just buffed in general. So we'll have to see how that ends up working out.
Definitely took the long straw at the end.
Yeah, sure.
Let's say it like this. Yeah. Don't say anything more. I don't want Blizzard hearing anything. Brewmaster, let them have something.
You didn't get took the long straw.
Yeah, you're not prop Paladin.
Oh my god, is it really that bad?
It can always be... At this point, you can't say it can always be worse. It can always be prop Paladin. Like, at that point, this is just...
You'll have fun reading it, bro. That's all you need to know.
It's sad.
Okay. It's sad. All right. Well, I will get into it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much, by the way, for coming.
Yeah.
And,
cheers for having us.
Yep. I'm sure we'll do something like this another time.
Sure thing.
Yeah. Okay, guys. This is obviously a tank that I've played a lot of. Okay, I've heard some really bad digs. Let's get into this. Paladins have a balance of good defensives against both physical and magic damage. They can be in danger if they lose their defensive power of standing and consecration, or if the armor bonus from Shield of Righteous drops. So you are not reducing any of their passive physical defensives like armor or block. Like druids, paladins have high uptime on their defensive cooldowns, so pulling back some of their durations to make timing their use more important. We would like paladins to have slightly more self-healing, so we're increasing the power of Word of Glory. Okay. Shield of Righteous increases your armor by 150% of your strength, was 170%. So they're just nerfing your SOTR armor baseline. Okay, that's not great, but let's continue. The damage reduction effect while standing and consecrate a Mastery Divine Bulwark is reduced by 20%. What? 20? Wait, how much damage reduction is it baseline right now? My current Mastery value. I actually can't remember. 20% sounds like a lot though. I'm trying to think how much DR do I have like normally? Because this is obviously just the Mastery. This isn't like things like Sanctuary and what have you. That's a lot, bro. That's kind of like that's like that meme. That's like the brother. Ugh. What's that, brother? That's actually a really big nerf. Actually, that's like really big. Like that's actually massive. Okay. Sanctified Plate's armor increase no longer applies to bonus armor from Shield of Righteous. Okay. What was that? That was like 20%, right? I think. Okay, that's not great. Improve Holy Shield increases your chance to block spells by 8%. Was 10%. Okay, that's like they obviously like shift around the talents. So this is like a like new talent that you can. I mean, it wasn't new, but like you have easier access to it than before. Yeah, whatever. The dust buff from Of Dusk and Dawn reduces your damage taken by 4%. Was 5%. Yeah, whatever. Word of Glory healing increases by 10%. That's it? What? Okay, whatever. Sentinel's duration reduced to 16 seconds. Wait, does that mean Avenging Wrath as well? Or just if you talent Sentinel? Bro, what the fuck? Wait, that's actually so massive for like any hard boss where you're actually taking a fuckload of damage. Or like M+. Dude, that's actually a huge fucking nerf. Eye of Tears duration reduced to 6 seconds. Oh! Okay. That's especially big for M+, actually. Like, that's really big in M+, that nerf. Okay. Righteous Protector, Holy Paladin abilities reduce cooldowns by 1.5 seconds, was 2.6 seconds. Dude, they do this all the time with Righteous Protector. They buff it, they nerf it, they buff it, they nerf it. They literally don't know what they want to do with this talent. It's crazy. They make it like 2 points, they make it 1 point, they do this, they do that. Blah, 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 blah. Like, what have they not done to this talent? It's like crazy. They have no idea what they want to do with this talent. Yeah, I mean, this does not look good, yeah. I mean, this does not look good. I mean, Paladins already kind of did have like one of the lowest, probably the lowest self-healing out of any tank. Because the only way you can really heal outside of like Leech is just through direct Word of Glories. Obviously you have the new, if you play the Divine Weapons, they do have like, not really self-healing, but they are able to get like a lot of value from the new absorbs that you can put on yourself and other people. And it's actually incredibly strong. I mean, this nerf, I think, is pretty substantial to just your overall damage taken. I'm pretty sure this is like 5 or 6% DR that you've just lost, I think. I think 5%. Wait, it's a 10% DR nerf? Wait, really? Wait, why is it 10% though? Is it because of how it scales? Wait, 44% equals 35%. Dude, this is like one of the largest nerfs out of any tank by far. I mean, that's actually really a smudge, I'm not gonna lie. Like, the thing is, I've actually played quite a bit of Prop Paladin beta. They were already struggling compared to other tanks in terms of survivability. Like, big time. Like, you compare a Prop Paladin's survivability to Brewmaster currently, Blood DK, Vengeance Demon Hunter, right? These are all tanks that are just infinitely stronger defensively than Prop Paladin is. going from that in the current iteration to getting a nerf like this is like kicking a dog, like when it's already down, you know, like a dog's on its last legs. He's like old. He's probably going to pass away soon. And you just decide to like punt him off a bridge. Right? But this is like crazy, yeah. Whatever, I guess. And also, I can tell you for Mythic Plus specifically, these changes are really bad. Like the IF tier duration, like of the debuff on enemies, that's like crazy unfortunate. I'm not gonna lie. That is really bad for M+. Like if you ever want to play a high M+ as Pro Paladin, these changes are not what you want. Like this just makes like IF tier is something that you pretty much spam in M+, almost spam. So having it not lasting as long is like really messed up. Sentinel fades every 1 second instead of 5 seconds. What? Wait, you're saying that the stacks fade faster now? No. I mean, then the talent is just gone. Then you're like never gonna play this over Might. I mean, let's face it, right? Pro Paladin, they lost Ret Aura buff, right? So the chance of you playing 2 Paladins in a raid was already much lower. Then they get a change like this when they're already on the squishier side, right? It was still playable, absolutely fine. And then also their like defensive option is like just like destroyed. And their other defensive cooldown, especially potent in Mythic Plus, is also just like way worse. Like, holy fuck, that's a way to kick a tank out of the video game, bro. Holy fuck, dude. I don't even know what to say. I mean, Lincoln, is there anything you can even add to this? Like, if we were to talk on Discord, do you want to talk on Discord briefly? No? Yeah, I mean... yeah, I don't even know. What is going on here, bro? This tank is gone. I'm gonna prep, like, 1 Pro Paladin for the next race. Basically. Like, some major changes would need to occur. Yeah, like, it's actually 07, guys. Like, it's actually 07. Like, Andy Chan, Andy Samar, it's actually 07. Like, it's actually done, yeah. Like, this is not a hyperbole or anything. Okay, Prot Warrior. Yo, Pika, are you here, by the way? Like, Prot Warrior has always been a tank that has very low self-healing. And they've always been about being able to be a tank that, you know, takes like a very reduced amount of damage, especially physical damage, right? They have in recent times, like everyone has this opinion of Prot Warrior being susceptible to magic damage, but it's actually not really that true anymore because of how strong they've made Reflect and because of also Spell Block as well. And just the duration of Spell Block is so immense that it enables you to basically cheese through a lot of things that other tanks would find very difficult. Like one of the strengths of Spell Block, if you guys didn't know, is that not only obviously blocking spells sounds pog, but you can also crit block as well, which means that you can end up reducing a spell by 85% from a crit block, which is like fucking crazy, bro. Like if you end up crit blocking anything with spell block, you basically like immune it almost. And this happens quite regularly, depending on the type of damage that you're blocking, right? They are still susceptible to periodic damage, but that's why every warrior plays dwarf, right? But yeah, for the most part, like I don't think this tank that's super weak to magic damage anymore. I don't think that's a thing with like how often you can reflect, shield wall rotations, spell block. I don't think this whole warrior weak to magic damage is a thing. I don't think it's been a thing for a while since they did the spell block changes to make spell block stronger. I don't believe in that rhetoric at all. I think it's fake news. You compare it to other tanks and how they have to deal with various mechanics. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. My TLDR, these changes, I think the Indomitable one is probably the biggest. Because Indomitable did give you like some nice extra self-healing. But it's not really like the end of the world or anything. I don't think it's like GG. The defensive stance, damage reduction. I mean, sometimes you don't even, I mean, in Raid, for example, lots of times you don't even use defensive stance. So, I mean, my thoughts is Prot Warrior is like this change doesn't do anything, or it's like the same. I mean, if anything, you got like a full buff in some areas as well. Like, This feels very much like the Brewmaster change.
How you guys doing?
Oh, yo.
Oh, 10
Yo,
out of
what's
10
up?
quality.
All right.
Yeah, he's in his car, right? Are you in your car?
Yeah. All right, my car. Just got to talk about, the changes. I had to step out of work just for this, just to say, we are screwed as Prot Warrior because we're screwed. You know why we're screwed? It's because it's going to be the exact same shit as Dragonflight Season 1. All the other tanks will not have the stats. They're going to get fucking owned. They're not going to be used to the damage intake. And then people are going to be like, oh my god, Prot Warrior is meta. It's the meta pick because they don't die to like melee swings. And that's why we're screwed.
I fully agree. That is literally like, it feels exactly like that we're going to get a repeat of that because of this.
I mean, I think it'll be fine. Like all the other tanks, we get used to it, right? Like it is a major change. And like, I mean, other than like Prot Paladin, like people can be able to work around most of the other like major changes. For the Prot Warrior changes, like Indomitable, like you said, is like the major, like the worst one there. But even then, it's not like in super insane. At the end of the day, there's some weird changes like Disrupting Shot. I think it's a little bit weird because they just changed that to 75 seconds, right? Like they just changed that to fix it. So I guess combat like the sigil abuse of VDH last season, and now they're kind of changing it back. But that already was like an optional talent that a lot of people already didn't take, right? I only feel like you take it when you're in a very like organized situation or you're trying to make things a lot easier. Yeah, it's like the overall the changes aren't insane or they don't change too much, and you wouldn't even really notice it unless they came out with the notes, right?
Yep, exactly. Like all of these changes are, as they stated, because of the 60% stamina increase, so the percentage things are nerfed. So otherwise, nothing would change for us yet again, like in Season 1 and 2, when they gave everyone the stamina buffs, like repeated times, where Warrior was completely unaffected because all our mitigation and our self-healing was percentage-based, so we were completely unaffected. With this, we are affected. The Indomitable change, yes, bad. Very unfun. On paper, yes, but in practice, we'll have to see. Leech has been nerfed across the board again. The Leech talents have been nerfed across the board. So self-sustain looks on the worse side, but it all comes down to damage intake, damage profiles.
Yeah, damage intake. I mean, you guys touched on it, but like, obviously, Blizzard's initial design of smooth damage intake, just like, I mean, that's just like Prot Warrior's heaven, right? It's the
yeah, because you can kind of look at it where they're buffing like magic damage taken, which is what typically is spiky damage, right? Like a tank is gonna die if like 3 magic bolts fly at them randomly, and that's the spiky damage they don't want, right? They want the smooth over, which typically means physical damage, which is where Prot Warrior shines.
Yeah, they said they wanted to buff, or they just wanted mostly like melees, I think. Yeah, from steady damage sources like physical attacks. That's what they wrote.
Yeah, so it's quite beneficial to us, and then. Like another change, I guess, like is a little bit impactful is the Into the Fray, which like depending on how much haste value you have, especially at the start of the expansion, you might be going more towards heavy repercussions anyways, right? Like at the beginning, just to get your shield block up, and then Into the Fray does affect our overall damage a bit, which is where I really kind of want Blizzard to focus on to give Prot Warrior more damage, because usually when the top tanks are out there, like Prot Warrior is just kind of middle of the pack. It's not insane amount of damage unless you're playing like ridiculous trinkets which impact your survivability, things like that.
Small wink for that. The thing with Into the Fray is it's not even that bad, because Enduring Alacrity just got recently buffed to be 2% haste, which we didn't play prior to that buff. So now it's gotten brought more in line with the stamina and armor nerf, but it's still 2% haste from that. So essentially, if we just disregard these past, 6 weeks of Prot Warrior, Into the Fray essentially didn't really change. But yes, early season, obviously, if we play heavy repercussions, pretty much guaranteed, and then plus in raid, this doesn't change. Basically, all that changes is like slightly damage output in AoE is reduced, yes. But for raid, you will still play Into the Fray. You will still play Punish. Fight Through the Flames is a meme.
Yeah.
You will only play it if the magic damage is this overwhelmingly high that it actually can make
one shots type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise you won't play it. Yeah.
It's not even 1 key level of magic damage reduction. Like, okay, you go 1 key level higher, and then whoop, this talent is now gone. You know.
Like I see it in situations like Mother Load, you know, when you used to zone out for the 3rd boss to change like your talents just to survive this one pure magic damage boss. Like that is like only cases where it's kind of overall impactful. But like overall, I think like all the changes in general, like they're really bad for some classes and okay for others. But I feel like it makes the gap less widened because it does bring up like, okay, well, if you're bringing everybody down, it's kind of like it's seen as a Prot Warrior buff, right? Or like a Brew buff or whatever. But it does widen the gap. I mean, make it less wide, basically.
Pretty much. But I don't know the current state of other tanks. I really have not looked at anyone. I just read these nerfs and we're like, okay, this all sounds pretty terrible for Pally and Blood DK.
Yeah.
Especially for Raid DK. Raid DK looks horrendously bad.
I wrote like a TLDR so far. So I wrote Blood DK, it's Jova. That was my TLDR. Well, no, to expand off that, it's like, I mean, I had Raholi in the call, and we talked about Blood DK. He's like a bit more optimistic, because but his kind of analysis and his view is based off that Blizzard will have like much steadier damage sources, right? And that with the change to the max HP, the Blood Shield cap won't be that, like, awful. Like for example, the Blood Shield cap seems like the biggest nerf, I would say. Especially for raining, like it's.
There's the Blood Shield cap specifically, and you cannot double dip from the same damage event anymore as DK.
Yeah, it's
primarily aimed at like solo tanking, like Skarn. Well, not solo tanking Skarn, but like these extremely high damage taken per second bosses like Rigolon, Skarn experiments, or solo tanking Furalath.
Yeah,
that is what this essentially not fully prevents, but stops.
And wants to stop. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I personally think it's really bad news for Bloody Gay. I think like it's gonna be
the opposite
down.
Of fun.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be really down bad. I think it's gonna be more awkward to play.
When's the last time like healers had to heal blood decays? Like actually heal them? Like this is gonna be really different.
I don't think that will happen. I think they will just die.
Yeah. Like
I think that's all that will happen. They will just die.
I played a fair share of healer in like middling keys, like 10 to 15s if you like look at the current key scaling. What this worries me the most in overall of these changes is, right? If the goal is for good tanks to require healer attention, what is gonna happen to the not so good tanks that already require healer attention?
Yeah.
This is the trickle down effect from this will just mean that they just get more demotivated or flamed or whatever, right? So this affects the lower end more than the higher end, because on higher end you just kind of make it work. You play around the fact that you are everyone is different. They just in the recent notes they buffed healers, especially what I liked, Resto Shemi and Preservation Evoker, which I currently play a lot and enjoy a lot. But yeah, this trickle-down effect will punish the less fortunate players a lot more than high-end.
I agree. I think what they want, seems, is they want more inclusion, right? Like Raholi was in my call earlier, and he was saying how what he thinks they want is they want less of this. You know, when a tank dies in M+, in like a key, and he dies to like a one shot, or he dies like a really spiky death. This is what Raholi was saying. Oftentimes, if it's a new player, he doesn't really know what went wrong. It's like hard for him to figure out what went wrong. I think what Raholi was trying to say is that he thinks that Blizzard wants to make tanking like easier and more streamlined. Something like for newer players to get into easier.
I feel like they just want to stop having to make rule sets like you guys need to have one healer in the MDI or the TGP, at least in your group, so you don't have to run 4 DPS, 1 tank comps, and they don't have to get all this flame from all the backlash that healers are cosmetic.
This feels like a direct response to that. Yes, absolutely.
It does, yeah. It does a bit, yeah. I remember.
Which is funny, because considering in Legion, they brought that rule in as well, because there were a lot of comps that just ran 1 Blood Decay and then 4 DPS and MDI back then. And then they made the rule that at some point that you have to have 1 tank and 3 DPS, 1 healer. Then they at some point removed that. Then they removed class stacking or spec stacking in MDI because they didn't like that either, right?
Yeah, true.
So
Now just blame Rare.
Yeah, that was when people were running triple rogue. Everyone was really mad. They were like,
yep, which is
fucking triple rogue out of the group, bro. Or...
It's weird. Like, you're gonna play whatever's best.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Don't make triple rogue that good then.
Anyway, TLDR is, don't say it's a Prot Warrior meta season 1 just because all the other tanks flop. That is not the case. And I don't want to hear all the streamers being like, oh man, Prot Warrior's the meta on Twitter, they get the nerf, and then we get like a big nerf, like our AoE shield wall, and then Prot Paladin was allowed to survive. That's a TLDR. Don't nerf Prot Warrior, and don't even look at Spell Reflect, because that just don't look at it in Stonevault. It's fine.
So I wrote Prot Warrior will be OP as fuck. Please nerf in quotation marks.
I hate
TV.
Yeah. But yeah, that Spell Reflect, you just, it is already relayed. It is gonna be fixed.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You think so? I mean,
I know so.
Okay.
But what I want to touch upon was the funny thing of adding or buffing Defender's Aegis and Impenetrable Wall cooldown reduction. Because I have gotten shield wall on single target versus this tanking dummy already down to 40 seconds before this buff. 40 seconds shield wall cooldown. 40 seconds. And now they're buffing it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
There will not be a scenario where Defender's Aegis that just can't exist.
Yeah.
You will, like, for Defender's Aegis to be better than Impenetrable Wall in this situation requires, like, you would need 4 shield walls in 1.5 minutes or 2.
Yeah.
4. That is insane. Or 2 back-to-back, which is also just use an external at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's definitely, I don't know, interesting. I don't know why they went with that change, to be honest with you. Just giving Prot Warrior more shield walls is going to be kind of like weird when they want tanks to be taking more damage overall. I mean, I don't know, like, they didn't really do anything specifically. Like, they didn't nerf Prot Warrior's armor. They didn't nerf anything to do with block value or anything to actually make Prot Warrior, like, take increased damage. Like, they reduced their self-healing a little bit, but like,
scared.
But they haven't achieved their aims at all here with the Prot Warrior ones. Like, compared to what they did to Prot Paladin, like, they literally took Prot Paladin out back and shot it in the fucking head. And
well, they wanted, like, they used Prot Warrior as the example of the kind of damage intake they want, right? So, like, if they use the Prot Warrior as baseline, then they're not going to really change that much, right?
But then what are they going to do? Are they going to, like, homogenize every tank? Like, major changes, and then, I mean, this game will end up like, it's like Final Fantasy, right?
But that's the problem, right? Like, that's what the public keeps saying that they want, right? When they say, like, oh, VDH double sigil is like too strong, every tank should have this ability, every tank should have this ability, like, utility. They just kind of want to homogenize all the tanks. Like, that's what the public keeps saying that they want, but then it just takes away from class identity in the end of the day.
Yeah, it does.
But this is also just a result of dungeon design in the end, right? If we were to look at Shadowlands dungeons, or BFA dungeons, the double sigils, they wouldn't do anything outside of, like, Shrine of the Storms, right?
Shrine of the Storm would be the biggest one, I think. Yeah.
Or like Siege of Borealis, there's no casters in there. You have like one that you nuke down in like the first section and like the alley section, but after that, it's very, very, very manageable, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So this is just a symptom from this overly everything needs to cast, everything needs to be stopped time of.
Yeah, they have gone really hard in that direction, making mobs do so many different mechanics like over the last few years. Yeah.
They also didn't help themselves with having so many DPS, especially the hybrids, access to so many tools in Dragonflight, when in previous expansions you were much more limited in what you could bring to a key. Now everyone has a lot of things, so everyone needs to have a lot of things.
Yeah.
Because it's just a lot. Everything is a lot. Everyone has a lot. The mobs require a lot. So whoever doesn't have a lot is just falls short.
No, definitely.
That's just how it works. When earlier expansions, all that a tank needed to do or needed to be was you need to just survive the keys, and then whoever does the most damage. And now you need Chaos Brand primarily because melees are illegal. Because floor mechanic.
They're even more illegal now, actually.
Yeah.
Right. In the current iteration of dungeons, melees are even,
Mist is so
worse.
good now.
Right.
Yeah,
all the clothies get all of it. It's all like if you look at anything, most complaints or stuff like that it's always the clothies. Always.
Yeah, it's true. Even though they're always eating good, right?
Mage getting 6 reworks and patches.
Oh
meanwhile,
my god.
Bear.
Well, mage is like the golden child because it's also, I believe, one of the most played classes, right?
So is Druid, and then Guardian. I'm like, we didn't get changes in 90 days.
I don't think that many people play the actual tank Guardian though. Is that mostly like other specs they're playing? Druid?
Balance is by far the most popular Druid
balance,
spec.
Right? Yeah.
Even when it's not good. If you look at BFA numbers, where it was horrendous in certain situations.
Yeah, people still play it. They love that class.
Still one of the most popular specs in at least heroic rating. It is always like top 3. It's always Balanced Druid and BM somehow.
I wonder why that is.
I mean, same
they get memed on so much as well.
Yeah.
And they're still...
I mean, they brought it upon themselves.
Maybe they have like some degradation kink or something.
All started with Castle Nathri, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, why? You don't think so? I think it's possible.
I don't know. It's what I wanted to go back to was also like Blood Decay is also, even if it's in a quote-unquote bad state, like also going back to BFA, still one of the most popular tanks ever.
Yeah, that's true.
And to the entire intent with these tank changes, I can understand that they keep wanting to say like, okay, hey, we want tanks to be this, tanks to be that. And like nerfing the tanks that appear to be like more popular. Prot Paladin has been extremely popular since its rework in Shadowlands with the Holy Power system and everything, and the sorter is up, like you can have 100% sorter uptime.
Yeah.
Then they say in Dragonflight Season 1, we don't want you to have 100% sorter uptime, and then you still have it.
And then you still have it. Oh, that was the funniest shit ever, actually. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So in regards to Prot Warrior, not seeing really anything of relevance aside from Indomitable, my guess would be that the majority, like, it has been extremely out of favor after Season 1. Because we were one of the tanks that had a functioning talent tree. That's why we were good, because we worked. Everything worked, except that one little bug in our favor, but probably why they found out, hey, Prot is can live, right? It works, it's steady, fun. But after that, it's just so incredibly unpopular and has still one of the highest deaths % in raid, where they're just the most what's the word? Most susceptible to just dying.
Yeah.
Right? That's why in Dragonflight we got Battle Scout Veteran to counteract that, but then it was bugged for 19 months.
Yes, dude. It was bugged for so long, bro.
And even right now, if you were to want to pick it up, which it's still not even a true cheat death, you
have to give up so many things. Yeah.
You lose incredibly valuable talents because all of our Gate 3 talents are insanely powerful.
They're really strong.
Yeah, Battering Ram got literally cut in half, so we don't play it anymore. Then the 2 Ravager talents, entirely useless, just completely missed everything they, are supposed to do. Because it would only work if Ravager was on anger management. Then we could utilize those talents. But getting Battle-Scarred Veteran is you lose Rage Generation, Self-Healing, Outburst, which is if anyone out there ever talents out of Outburst, they have lost their mind. That is literally a class-enabling talent. Same with Indomitable. Booming Voice, yeah, you lose damage, but it's still very frequent rage, especially if you play Thunderlord. So there's a lot of synergies within all of those talents down there. The only non-synergistic talent is Ravager, but Ravager is incredibly useful to establish early threat, and especially the Rage Amp, getting those 60 Rage to keep your rotation going in case like you don't get enough Shield Slam resets is incredibly valuable as well. So getting a What If talent compared to guaranteed value talents is just not a good option. Like, you make yourself squishier by talenting out of one of those talents down there to get a talent that is supposed to prevent you from dying. It's like you're losing tankiness to get tankiness somewhere else. It's like kind of counterproductive. That is
ultimately, Andy, just don't rank it number 1. That's the thing. Don't rank it number 2. It's like middle of the pack Prot Warrior.
Yeah. Okay.
Or just don't rank at all, or do the now thing with the spin wheel.
With the spin wheel.
That is perfect count. And then make one wheel where it's only warrior. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you guys on your thoughts about Prot Warrior. I need to go delve into. Apparently, there's some development changes I need to go into as well.
All right, thanks for having us, man.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for giving me your thoughts. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah, see ya, Pika. See ya, no. Yo, thank you guys so much, by the way. Thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed that chat to get their kind of like opinions. Hey guys, what's up? I just wanted to basically have a conclusion to this video after I've kind of like gathered my thoughts and thought about this whole kind of like vision that Blizzard has a little bit more. I just want to say I think Blizzard are very ambitious with this change, and I think that this change will take a long time to be realized. I do kind of support devs that want to make ambitious changes to the game as a way of like improving the game. Obviously right now Blizzard has a problem where not many people want to tank, and they also have a problem where they seem to think that tanking is like unhealthy in some ways, and they want to try and address that and improve upon that. I think that these changes happened way too late on the kind of like the creation of War Within Beta. I think these sort of changes should have happened straight away as soon as beta launched. These sort of changes happening when it's so late and testing is already done for all of the mythic bosses, it's gonna lead to quite a bit of a shit show, I would say, when the expansion launches. And I think that can only be negative. I think there will be no positive from this. On top of that, as you guys have watched through the video, you would have seen that in a lot of cases, the individual devs for each tank haven't achieved the aims that Blizzard has set out in this blue post. They have not achieved the aims of reducing tank durability for every tank and reducing self-healing. They haven't. In some cases, they have completely butchered that effort, i.e. Vengeance Demon Hunter. I don't even want to get started on that one. I don't know how such minimal changes happened when if you compare it to, say, Prot Paladin, where Prot Paladin just got hard nuked by like, just from orbit, boom, it's gone. When it was already comparatively much weaker than the other tanks, by the way. So yeah, I'm not sure how that happens. It's a bit scary, I would say. The fact that there's a very huge disconnect, it seems, between the devs and I guess the lead designer that's proposing this change. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. I'm not sure if the communication is just very bad. Some very big red flags, I would say, going into this expansion. It's hard to not to be negative. I don't want to be negative, but it doesn't look great, I would say. Obviously, this is something that we will have to give Blizzard time to figure out. But then it's like, how much time do you want, man? Because like this is something that is, in my opinion, after having played this game professionally for a very long time now, this is the sort of change that is expansions level of kind of the amount of longevity it kind of like needs. This is going to take a really, really long time, in my opinion, to fully kind of like flesh out. And I just want to say that having played tank for a very long time and seeing so many different iterations of different tanks, I would say that when tanking is the most fun is when it's, when you're very self-reliant, when you do have a little bit of the main character syndrome, when you feel very in control of both yourself and able to help others, I think this sort of kind of ideology or way of looking at tanking is like very ancient. It's very akin to, I'd say, classic WoW. And I don't think any current tank player really wants that. I'm not sure how that could increase inclusion in any positive way to people that already play WoW, that want to try out tanking or what have you. Yeah, I'm not sure. I personally think that Blizzard needs to go into a different direction. But yeah, like I said, the fact that these changes didn't happen very specifically before testing all of the heroic and mythic bosses means that there's definitely going to be some issues there, I would say. Yeah. God knows what the raid is going to be like. We'll have to see. Also, the initial kind of like tuning seems in some cases very major, in some other cases extremely minor, almost nothing. So yeah, it's very strange, I would say. I guess we'll see. But yeah, that's basically in conclusion my thoughts. I think personally, I think that this is the wrong kind of mindset of looking at tanking. I personally think that tanking is more fun when it is the main character. I don't think a healer's job should be healing tanks, or that should be part of the job. I think healing is most fun when you're kind of like min-maxing, healing other people, keeping them alive, and you know, the only way of you helping tank is through like either healing them a little bit when they're really struggling with something, or through giving them an external to survive in a time where they need something for a tank buster, or in a time where they have no defense themselves, sort of thing. Other than that, like healing a tank is quite boring, I would say. And a lot of healers agree. Most healers who play this game hate tank healing. They find it really boring. So yeah, I don't know. Personally, I think there is a disconnect with this idea. Unfortunately, for me to be positive about it, it would have had to have come much earlier in the development cycle of this game. If it came much earlier, maybe I would have been more positive about it and been like, oh, okay, you know. And maybe if the initial changes were more in line with kind of fulfilling this goal, like, because some of these changes, they don't fulfill this goal at all, man. And it's a joke. It's a joke. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It is what it is. Hopefully they can, you know, take community feedback, maybe fix this. Personally, I would abandon this whole project because I think from the ground up, it's already too late, unless they push back the expansion, but that's not really going to happen. I think it's already, you know, set in stone. The early stages of the expansion do not look great from a kind of tanking design point of view.